Welcome and hello to Hugh Hatrick and it's Bible 365. Now, this is a very special show because it's not just a Bible reading show today. We have a very special guest all the way from Tulsa, Oklahoma. It is Haley Joy Harris. Now, Haley, you very kindly have put time aside tonight to come on the show, but you're quite famous, aren't you? I would say rather famous, especially with your sister duo, Camille, and you, of course, write songs and have a whole history of working in the arts and have done some amazing stuff. So tonight, we thought we would talk about a new book that you've just launched, and I've got my copy here, which is The Bible in Rhyme. There you go. It's launched on Amazon, and we're going to have the links in the description by the time by the time this is uploaded. But to write a book is something, and we'll talk about the music in a wee bit, but specifically for the book, how did it all start? What was the motivation behind creating this book?
Well, it started about 10 years ago when I decided to read the whole Bible in a year. But as the back says, it took longer than a year because when a story stuck out to me, I turned it into a poem. So I ended up with about 30 poems, maybe. And when I decided nearly 10 years later to turn it into a book, I decided to take all the short stories and put them all together into the first one. I've been feverishly working on my second book today, but that's not necessarily public news, but now it is. No,
Breaking
but
news.
Yeah, I decided to put it all together, and I thought, how important would it be to have the, salvation story at the end? And so I made it all in poetry form, talked about the fall of Lucifer and, God and Jesus and how they all relate together, and basically a salvation poem prayer at the end.
Wow, it's quite a thing, and so it's taken you a number of years, I think, to do the whole thing from reading the intro. What did you want to achieve with the book? What was kind of your aim with it?
I don't know. It could just be to bring people to Christ. It could be that people can. Well, one of my goals personally is to make Christianity fun, not make it seem fun, just show people the fun that it can be, because I think a lot of people don't think that it is, people think it's stiff and it's rigid, and that is a perspective of it, that, God is serious, but he's also fun, and I wanted to show his power and his humor, his fun, all of it encompassing all together, to show a wider picture of who he is and some of the Bible stories. I want to bring him to life in a colorful way.
Yeah, I mean, did you have a particular aim? When you've written it, and it's for children, and my two have been reading this with me and really enjoying it. Did you hope that it would be a thing that really helped children kind of bond with their parents as well? Because we do it as a kind of nighttime story, which is quite nice. Did you think that might be something that would come from getting the book out there?
Yeah, I mean, I wanted to bring people together in general. I don't know how kid friendly it is, since some of the words are a little bit more difficult, which is why I put a glossary. It's actually a 300 plus word glossary. But I didn't realize when I was writing it, I wasn't writing it for kids. I was just writing how I knew how to write, and if a word didn't fit, I would use a thesaurus for a different word for the meaning that I meant. But some of the words ended up being kind of a little bit difficult. So I had considered calling the book Tween the Lines, because, reading between the lines, but also for tweens, because it is a little bit of an older kid read. But that's part of the reason I wanted to add as many pictures as I did, is because I wanted it to be for more than just tweens. You know what I mean? So hopefully, by context, kids learn words as well, and the parents will explain to the kids what certain things mean. So as they get older as well, they may understand it even more. Yeah,
I certainly think that the glossary is very impressive. And I have to say, for my two, one is 7, one is 10, and I thought actually these are quite good words to help them with their spelling, because they're all doing that in school. So it's actually, and you've got some great words, and I'm very impressed with the way you managed to get everything to rhyme, because these are not easy stories to rhyme. Was there any particular challenges that you had when you were making this rhyme and coming up with the right words?
Well, there are some times, believe it or not, the 1 Corinthians 13, love is patient, love is kind. That's a pretty short poem, and I'm making a bookmark, and I'm going to be including that in the book sales that are the ones that are for me personally. But anyway, that took forever because, for instance, I had like love is not rude, and then I needed to have a word that rhymes with rude, but there's actually not that many. If you look at the list, there's like exclude and include and things like that. And sometimes I'll get hung up on that to where I'm just like, this actually won't work. So then I have to say, love is rude, love doesn't boast. And then now I have to rhyme with boast, which may have more rhymes than the first. So things like that, little technicalities can make it difficult and get me, and I think, well, I need to use the word rude at the end, but I really can just switch it around and then rhyme a different pattern, or with a different word.
Yeah, yeah. No, it's really good. And I was going to say that there's a lot from reading this one. One of my favorite ones was about finding the right wife, and I read this one actually to my wife, which was quite fun. And I thought it was particularly relevant. And I thought, my goodness, if I'd had that 12 years ago, it would have been a lot easier because you've got some real gems. The way that it's written, it's such good advice for people who are single and who are looking for a wife. It's really, really good. Especially I like the last bits that you've got here. Was it laziness and boredom? Those words never cross her mind. She's brighter than a diamond ring. She's worth the rarest kind. And it's really good, and so I really enjoyed reading that. And I was saying to my son, because he thinks, he's at that age of 7. He says, "What happens when you get married? Who do you look for?" So I was reading this as well to him, and saying you look for a wife for these kind of qualities. And so he actually kind of looked at me and he said, "Okay, that solves that one then." So it was so no, he's learned a huge amount with it. And so what do you think, if you were going to go forward with in the next book, what would be your aim with that?
Well, my next book is my longer stories, and so in this one, the longest one, well, most of them, actually, almost all of them, are 2 pages. I think there's 2 in there that are 1-pagers. But this next one, the shortest, is 4 pages. So, which means I have to draw more pictures for each story. And I'm not very good at taking a character and kind of moving them around to where they can be in a different location, but like still look the same, because I'm not really trained that way. And so I'm having to be creative with it. Some of them I will do a different character in the story instead of the same person over and over again or whatever, but I'm planning on having some kind of graphic on anytime you flip the page, there will be something to look at, hopefully. So.
Yeah. And do you think as well in the book there that there's some real gems for adults too? I mean, I know I used that example earlier, but did you think, oh yeah, these stories, these will be good for the parents who might be reading this to their children, or to adults who might be having a look at that too? Was there anything that kind of stuck out to you?
Anything that stuck out that would you said something about the parents?
Yeah, so you thought, because obviously a lot of children and older children will get a lot from the book, but do you think adults, are there particular things you think that adults will receive from that too?
Sure, like the unfaithful woman story, for instance, that kids are not there yet, but it's good for adults to hear. It's good for anybody to hear, but kids may not even know what adulteress means, and so and that's why I have the glossary. But sure, yeah, there's those stories that can. It may even be more a book for adults, but I hope that it can sort of be for everybody. So that's the hope anyway.
Yeah, and how could people get a hold of the book? I know it's on Amazon, but is it also available anywhere else?
Yes, actually, if you go on my website, it's HaleyJoyHarris.com, HALEY Joy Harris. I have it. The first thing up there is you can buy it straight from me through the Square Register, and that way I can sign it. If you want it signed, you just put a little custom note, saying the names of whoever is receiving it, and I send it out.
Yeah, and I actually have experience of you sending stuff out, because when I bought some albums from you earlier in the year, they were noted there, and you even gave me a nice little note saying that we share the same initials, which was rather nice. And
that's funny. What's your middle name?
I don't actually have a middle name, but it's just HH, just Hugh Hatrick.
Oh, okay, well, let's just say your middle name is James so we can match Haley Joy Harris, Hugh James Hatrick.
Well, I've got a nephew called James. So that matches out.
Oh,
That would be fine.
Yeah, HJH. You know, my little sister is also an HJH. You saw that on the Hattie
Yeah.
Julie Harris.
Oh, it's fantastic. Well, certainly for everyone who's looking to get a great book for, I would say for older children, and even, I mean, I'd say my two are 7 and 10, and they love it. And I think it's almost like a Bible study for them as well. It's a really good, great stories, and it's informative, and it's great for the adults too. And it's humorous. It definitely brings over the way that the Lord blesses us with his humor, which is always a great thing. So definitely make sure you get a copy. And as I say, all the links will be in the description below once this gets uploaded onto YouTube. But let's go on to ask a few more questions here while I've got the chance. Obviously you've been, you're a born again Christian. You've done lots of songs that are very kind of close to you. But what does your faith in Christ kind of mean to you? So, especially on a daily basis, what would you say is it? What's the main thing that kind of that it means to you?
Well, it's a foundation in a very rocky world, I guess you'd say. It's just something to fall back on, especially as things have been getting very strange. And not that it's the worst it's ever been, so there's been really bad times in history, and we've come back. But it is, as I've gotten older, it's definitely meant so much more than it used to, because I realized, first of all, how good God is. You realize that more all the time, and he proves himself to you more not as you get older, but just in time. But he's not a cheap thrill. There's a lot of cheap thrills in the world that we can chase, but at the end of the day, none of them actually satiate your needs for intimacy, for being connected to somebody that loves you completely, fully. I don't know. It's the most important thing you can have is a relationship with God, and that's my final answer.
Yeah, no, it's true, because we're finding here that on our channel with the Bible readings, we get some interesting comments, and people have emailed me saying, that are quite new in the faith, and so getting into the Word has been really important, and it really helps them. And I try to do it in a way that so hopefully they can hear it clearly, and it can just stick with them, so they can read it alongside, or they can just listen to me reading the Word. And what would you say is the most important thing, or why would you think it's a good thing to read the Word every day?
Well, it strengthens your faith. It's good to be refreshed on stories anyway. The Bible says, faith comes by hearing, and hearing by the word of God. And it's a good reminder that, you need to put God first. And not only just do you need to do things, but God gives back to you. And when you feel his presence, that's also one of the most amazing feelings in the world. And to have that in your life is invaluable, So.
And what would you say is the biggest blessing that the Lord has given you over these last few years in all the things that you've been doing?
Biggest blessing? I'm always blessed to have my family. I'm the third of 8 kids, and I'm blessed that they are all still alive. That none of my family has been affected permanently by the virus or whatever is going on. I'm thankful that I have a roof over my head. There are people that don't have that, and so just in general, I'm just grateful.
Yeah. No, it's great, because I think it's quite hard sometimes, because people, I think when they first hear about the gospel, they might, go to a church, or they're invited to come and hear about the Lord, and they give their hearts to Christ. And it's like, it's such a big journey, isn't it? It's an everyday thing that changes your life. And people wonder, how do they adapt to that? What is the Lord, what is he saying to them? And how the changes in their lives that they have to make, but also the wonderful blessings that come along from knowing Christ and seeing the great changes. I used to suffer from cramps in my feet before I was a Christian. And I hadn't actually noticed, it took me about a month to notice that once I got saved, I was no longer experiencing these cramps in my feet. And it was quite a bad, quite an annoying thing that would happen, very painful, and it went. And so that was just one way that the Lord blessed me, when I got saved. So it was, there's lots of things that happen in your life that change the way that you live. Because also, obviously, being in America in the last year or so, you've seen big changes with big political changes too. How do you find that affects your life, with your beliefs and also your political beliefs as well?
The changes in the world?
Well, in America, you've got a new president. You went from having Trump to having Biden. How did you find, it's a very different dynamic as to what it was a year ago to what it is today. How do you find it being a Christian in America now? Has it changed in the last year?
To me, being a Christian hasn't changed, but I think it has woken up a lot of Christians that we need to pray for our country, and that's one of the most important things we can do. Of course, I believe voting and praying are both very essential. Now, we saw that the voting was frauded, and I don't actually consider Biden our president. I think that it was a stolen election, and that's alarming. I've heard that there are people trying to fix, the fraud. We need to get voter ID, obviously. That's like the only thing we don't have ID for, which is crazy. But Christianity, God doesn't change. And so Christianity doesn't change. It's just that people need to wake up and realize that their voice matters and their prayers matter, I think. I think that's what has changed, is the way.
It's quite interesting because over here, we have a very big kind of environmental movement at the moment. And that seems to be kind of coming into the church quite a bit. In fact, to my kind of amazement, there was recently a Bible study that was all about climate change. And why we should be talking to people in the church about climate change. And my idea was, when I saw that, I thought, well, that's all very well. You might have a particular belief on that or not, a view on that. But surely in the church, we should be talking to people about the gospel and about Jesus. And that's really more important. Is that something that has affected the church in America as well? Or is it unique to Britain?
Are you talking about climate change?
Yeah, as a kind of, or that environmental kind of movement that is out there at the moment.
I don't know if it affected the church. I mean, people in the church are Americans too. I don't really know how to differentiate. I think people outside of the church are more concerned about that. I personally don't even know if I believe in it. I don't know. I'm just like, okay, how can we fix it? They are kind of, I think it's a way to devalue human life, because they're saying something about how less people in the world would be better for the earth or something. And it's like, the Bible talks about that, dehumanizing a life. And that's, of course, with abortions, that we're already doing that. So, and we're praying to the end of that as well. But yeah, I don't think that should be a concern of any Christian. I really don't.
Yeah, no, it's good to hear, because I think I always remember that the quote from the Lord saying, "Do not worry," and don't, you hear rumors of wars and so on, and that shouldn't, don't worry, just have faith and believe, and I think that's the thing, because to me it seems crazy that people would want to embrace, and in a way, a kind of very worldly religion, because it's a religion almost in itself, the kind of environmental movement. And it always kind of makes me think, why on earth would a church start to want to embrace that, when the real thing is actually going to talk to people about Jesus, about being all things to all men, isn't it? And trying to reach out and bring the good news and the hope of the gospel to those in need. And it's something that, how do you see things going over the next few years in America? Because we hear about what's happening with Biden and some of the things that have been going on, and there seems to be a real divide in America as to what side you're on. Where do you think it might go in the next few years?
Well, I don't know. It's hard to try to unite both parties because they believe such opposite things. And so all you can do is share who you are and what you believe individually or on platforms like this or on social media, and just follow what God is telling you to do, because I don't know. I think he's the great uniter. Of course, I thought that most of what Trump did was good, but he was not a great uniter. You know what I mean? And people used to say that at the end of his presidency, and I was like, what do you mean he's not? But because I really like him, but people, he was polarizing. And
Yeah.
so I don't know. I think Jesus is the person that unites us.
Yeah. No, definitely, definitely. And it's great when we can all get on, regardless of what points of view we might have politically. And I think for a lot of Christians, they can't now avoid the politics. It does make such a difference to their lives, and who you vote for. The outcomes are so different now. And I think you have to be involved. And in fact, going to one of the songs that you wrote recently, that was from one of the Beatles songs, wasn't it? The Imagine. And you've got some very, very good lyrics in there, making people question a lot about where they're going and how you can't ignore the important things in life, and how to deal with it. What was the inspiration to write that song?
Let me get it started really fast. I don't know how I didn't do that. Okay, because my phone's gonna die in like 10%. I just think that song is very cool, and it has a great melody, but a really bad message. With Imagine There's No Religions and all that, and it's like, well, that's never actually going to be true. So that is not something that we need to be dreaming about. And so, hold on, let me see. And so I just thought I would change, because I love rewriting songs. I wrote 2 albums without Branson. I figured I can write a political version of Imagine, because my dad said that kind of rocked the world, and it changed things, and in not a good way. So words have power, and I thought putting new words to it would do the song well.
Yeah. But you wrote some great songs. I mean, there's so many that we've seen on YouTube, and if you haven't, to all the viewers today, if you haven't seen it, you need to go onto Camille and Haley's channel, which I'll put in the description, because they've got these fantastic range of every type of song you can think of, and they do it so well. And you wrote, I know you were thinking, but you gave me a wee message that you might possibly be able to sing one for us tonight, which is one called "Well Done." Would it be possible to hear you sing that?
Sure. Yes, I have my guitar right here. Hold up. Let me see. About plugging this thing in. Oh my gosh, wrong thing. Okay. How unprofessional. I'm sorry.
That's all right. It's a live show. It's fine.
There we go. All right. So this is called "Well Done," and I joke about how I like my steak. It's not a song about steak, but it is a song about at the end of your life, the Bible says you stand before God, and he separates the sheep from the goats, and who did the right things and who did the wrong things, and I want to get on the right side of things. I want to hear "well done," not "well, what'd you do." So so I'll just play the first
it'd be fantastic.
When I stand before the maker of the earth, the one who knew me even from my birth, and when he's judging me while I am at the Father's throne, here's some things I never want to be told. You want to hear well said, well thought through, well at least you had good intentions. No. You want to hear you barely made it by the hair of your cheek, and can you squeeze on it? No, hun. I want to hear well done. I want to hear well done.
That's fantastic. Oh, that's brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. Yeah, and that's the thing. And you've done so many different songs, different types of songs, different styles. One of my kids' favorite is "Ain't Your Fool," which you did a few years ago. But they love that. I think they love all the guitars, along with all the farm animals and the whole kind of thing as you're walking around the stables and different things in the video. It's really, really good. And there's so many.
We ever posted on YouTube, I think, on Camille and Haley.
Was it? Yeah. No, it was really, really good fun. What's your favorite song that you've done together with your sister?
My favorite song, I kind of like a song we wrote called Charlie Brown. Very random, but it's like, you're so Charlie Brown and I want you around. And it's not a Christian song. It just happens to be one of our love songs we wrote, and we have a good memory behind it. And it just talking about this guy that's like Charlie Brown. So I think I like that one. But I also like a lot of our ones too. I just happen to like fun songs.
Yeah, yeah. No, that's definitely, I mean, I have to say, from listening to your music and from the joy that comes from the way that you talk and about your faith, it's just that really, for me, encompasses what faith is all about, what knowing Jesus is all about, isn't it? It's the joy in your heart that you receive from knowing Jesus, and I think that's what people get from your music, because it's very uplifting, and the lyrics are extremely good. And they're just it's a lovely way to spend time, to listen to your music. And where's the best place that they can get your music from?
Oh, our website is thesisterduo.com, thesisterduo.com, or it's camilleandhaley.com. It both redirect, but Camille and Haley is harder to spell, so we came up with Sister Duo.
Oh, that's fantastic. Well, it's been an absolute pleasure to talk to you tonight, and thank you very, very much for putting time aside and coming on the show. You're always welcome, and hopefully we'll get to see your whole family, and you and Camille doing more songs. And if you're ever wanting to come to the UK and do a tour, I'm sure every church would be kind of open arms to bring you in, because really it's when I've seen some of the worship that you've done as well in different churches, some of the clips you put on YouTube and things, and you really kind of take the worship into a great, really good spiritual heights, and I think you can see that people are able to praise and worship when you help lead them into that, which is a real gift. So it would be amazing to see you over here in the UK, and do a tour or something like that, because that would be fantastic. But stay on the line just now. But I'll close the show. Just now I'll finish the recording. But for everyone who has been watching, it's been Bible 365 with our very special guest, Haley Joy Harris, all the way from Tulsa, Oklahoma. And it's been an absolute pleasure. So take care, everyone. May God bless you. And I'll see you very soon. Bye just now.
That was awesome.